were not born like everyone else, and here's why. Pause. Not because you're curious, but because something inside you is waking up. You didn't click this video by accident. You're not here because of a YouTube algorithm. You're here because something much deeper, something mystical, called you. For as long as you can remember, there's been a feeling that you were different, that you didn't quite fit, that something powerful runs through your veins, something ancient, something sacred. And no matter how hard you've tried to explain it to others, they just couldn't understand. But deep down, you always knew. You were never meant to be ordinary. People might call you confident, bold, charismatic, a natural-born leader, but they only see the surface. What they don't see, what they can't touch, is the mystical force you carry inside you. Maybe you've walked into a room and every eye turned toward you without you saying a single word. Maybe you've felt others draw strength from you just by being near your energy. Maybe you've survived storms that would have crushed other people and came out even brighter. If any of that feels familiar, then listen closely, because what I'm about to reveal might finally explain why. Long ago, ancient astrologers spoke of a sign chosen by the sun itself, a sign not ruled by the world, but by something cosmic. A sign that holds secret powers meant for a greater mission. And that sign is Leo. But not just Leo you. This is not a typical astrology video. We're not here to talk about daily horoscopes or personality traits. This is about something bigger, something mystical, something that makes you untouchable. So let me ask you, have you ever wondered why you're always the one expected to lead? Why you often carry the emotional weight for everyone else, even when no one seems to carry you? Why you can't seem to live a quiet, small life, no matter how much you try? The truth is, you're not supposed to, because you were chosen to ignite something in this world, and whether you're ready or not, that ignition begins now. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through 20 mystical powers that live within you. Powers the world may not understand, but your soul will remember. Each one is a doorway. Each one is a part of you that has been sleeping and is now ready to wake up. You didn't come here to be like anyone else. You came here to shine so brightly. That darkness remembers what light feels like. So if you're a Leo or carry strong Leo energy in your birth chart, this is not just a video for you. This is a spiritual summons. And if something inside you feels like it's rising as you hear these words, then don't look away now, because your true power is calling. Let's begin. Mystical power number 1, the flame of divine presence. You don't enter rooms, you shift atmospheres. Have you ever felt it? You walk into a space, a cafe, a family dinner, a quiet office, and without saying a word, the air shifts. People glance over. Conversations stumble. Even those who didn't notice you with their eyes suddenly sense something. It's as if the entire room adjusts itself around your presence. You might not fully understand it. You might think, I didn't even say anything. I wasn't trying to be the center of attention. But it doesn't matter, because you don't need to try. You carry the flame of divine presence. This is not something you trained for, not something someone gave you. It was born in you, embedded in your soul by something higher. Your very existence alters energy. This is why people are drawn to you. It's also why some are uncomfortable around you, because they don't know how to react when a soul that burns with its own light steps into their world. Many Leos mistake this gift for arrogance. They try to suppress it, They try to make themselves smaller so others feel more comfortable. But in doing so, they deny the sacred fire placed inside them. Your presence is not a burden, it is a frequency. It speaks on your behalf before you even open your mouth. Let me share a true story. Years ago, I worked with a Leo woman named Elena. She was calm, soft-spoken, and rarely volunteered to lead. But every time our group gathered, people naturally turned to her. They watched her, waited for her reaction before deciding how to feel. At first, she thought it was anxiety. But as we worked together, she realized something deeper. She wasn't nervous. She was being recognized. Even when she was quiet, she was the one people followed. Not because of what she said, but because of what she carried. That's the flame. You don't light it, it lights you. This energy is why some people will dislike you without cause. They sense something in you that refuses to be ordinary. They feel a vibration they can't name, and it either inspires them or it threatens them. That is not your fault. That is your gift. The world tells you to blend in, but your soul was born to stand out, not through performance, but through presence. Let that sink in. You don't need to speak to be heard. You don't need to fight to be felt. Your flame by itself already changes the temperature of the room. Life lesson: you don't need to prove your value. The right people will feel you before they even know you, and the wrong ones will misunderstand you. And that too is sacred. Stop dimming your fire for people who are still learning how to see. Reflection for you. Have you ever noticed how people respond when you enter a space, even when you're silent? That's not random. That's not luck. That's the first sign of the mystical power you were born with. Stay with me, because in the next section, you'll see why your heart holds more than just love. It holds the fire of ancient stars. Mystical power number 2, the heart of eternal fire. Your emotions aren't ordinary. They are instruments of creation. There's a fire inside you, but it's not the kind that burns buildings. It's the kind that builds worlds. Most people feel things, but you channel them. You don't just love. Your love transforms people. You don't just grieve. Your sorrow can shape the atmosphere of an entire home. You don't just feel, you transmit. That's not sensitivity. That's not drama. That's the heart of eternal fire. You were born with a heart that holds more than blood. It holds ancient flame. And sometimes that flame gets too intense. You've felt it, haven't you? A moment where your emotions overwhelmed you. Not because you were weak, but because your soul was trying to speak through your body. This mystical power makes you magnetic. And it's also why you've been misunderstood. People have said you're too much, that you care too deeply, that you take things personally. What they don't understand is that your emotional world is a sacred system of divine communication. You were never meant to be numb. You were meant to feel so deeply that you awaken the frozen hearts around you. Let me tell you about Marcus, a Leo artist I once mentored. He had a way of expressing pain through music that made people cry, even if they didn't speak his language. One day, I asked him, "Where does that come from?" He looked at me and said, "I feel things, like thunder. And when I don't express it, it eats me alive." That's what your heart holds, not just feeling, but force. When Marcus learned to channel it, not suppress it, not fear it, but use it, he stopped self-destructing. He started creating, and his entire life changed. This is why relationships matter so deeply to you. You don't enter them lightly. You give your whole soul, your whole fire, And when it's betrayed, the wound cuts through timelines. But even in heartbreak, this power serves you. Because your heartbreak doesn't just break it transforms you. It cracks you open wider. It fuels your next rebirth. And from that pain comes light. The heart of eternal fire cannot be copied. Others may imitate your confidence, your fashion, your leadership, but they'll never be able to duplicate the way you feel because they weren't born with this internal flame. They weren't built to survive it. You were. Life lesson. Your emotions are not flaws. They are sacred tools. Stop apologizing for them. When you honor your heart, you give others permission to feel again. And in a world full of numb souls, your fire might be the only thing that keeps some people alive. Reflection for you. Has your heart ever felt too much for this world? Have you ever tried to shut it down, only to feel like you were slowly fading inside? That's not a mistake. That's a sign you were born to carry a flame others could never hold. Let that heart burn, not to destroy, but to purify. In the next section, we'll uncover the reason you've always carried yourself like royalty, even when no one gave you permission. Mystical power number 3, the solar crown. You don't chase authority, you embody it. There's something about the way you hold yourself. Even when you're quiet, there's a posture to your energy, a kind of unspoken sovereignty. You walk into spaces not as a guest, but as if you belong to the architecture of the room. You sit down and the room adjusts. You speak and people stop scrolling, stop doubting, stop resisting. You don't need a title. You don't need approval. Because whether you realize it or not, you were born wearing a crown made of sunlight. This is the solar crown, the third mystical power that no one else can touch. You didn't earn it through effort. It was forged in your soul's divine contract long before this lifetime. Others seek validation, permission, and status. But your energy was never meant to seek authority. It was built to radiate it. Let me tell you something. Many Leos forget, not every crown is visible. Yours shines through the way you move, the way you lead, the way you even handle silence. And that's what threatens people. They feel something ancient when they're around you. Something royal. They don't know if they want to follow you or challenge you. But they can't ignore you. This mystical power is not ego, it's legacy. It's the spiritual inheritance of your soul. I once worked with a Leo woman named Rebecca. She was not a CEO. She wasn't famous. She didn't run a company. But people came to her instinctively when things fell apart. She would walk into chaotic situations, and without raising her voice, she'd restore order. Not with dominance, but with calm gravity. One day, a friend said to her, "Whenever you show up, I feel like things are going to be okay." That's the crown. It's not about being loud. It's about being centered so deeply, so confidently that the world orbits you without realizing it. This is why people project expectations onto you. They want you to lead. They want your approval. They want your blessing. And sometimes they want your downfall because you walk through life carrying what they've been chasing. And some would rather break the crown than admit they don't have one. But here's the truth. You don't need to defend your authority. You were never meant to compete. Solar energy doesn't compete with candlelight. It just shines and lets everything else adjust accordingly. Life lesson. Stop shrinking to protect other people's insecurities. Your inner royalty doesn't need permission to exist. You are not here to earn your place. You are the place. And the world will either rise to meet your standard or fade away. Reflection for you. Have you ever been put in leadership roles you didn't ask for? Do people come to you for strength, guidance, or presence? Even when you feel unready, that's not a coincidence. That's the crown you were born with, and it's time you remembered how to wear it. Mystical power number 4, the light mirror. You don't just reflect light, you reveal what's hidden in others. You may not realize it yet, but one of your most mystical powers is not how brightly you shine, but what your light does to those around you. You are a mirror, not the kind that flatters, but the kind that reveals truth. When people are around you, their masks begin to slip. Their true intentions, insecurities, fears, and desires begin to surface, not because you expose them, but because your energy demands authenticity. This is the light mirror, and it is both a gift and a curse. Because of this power, people may accuse you of being too intense, or say, "I don't know why, but you make me feel seen, and I'm not sure I like it." That's because your light is not decorative. It's diagnostic. It doesn't just make people feel good. It shows them what needs healing. You didn't ask for this role. You didn't train to be a mirror, but your soul agreed to it long before this life began. And that's why you often feel misunderstood. That's why some people avoid you, reject you, or even lash out at you, even when you've done nothing but exist in truth. Let me tell you a story. There was a Leo man I once worked with, a therapist named Elias. He told me clients would often come into his office for the first time, and within 10 minutes, they'd start crying, even before saying a word. I didn't even do anything, he said. They just look at me and break open. I told him, "You didn't need to say anything. Your light already showed them what they were hiding from." He wasn't just a therapist. He was a mirror, and so are you. You might notice that people either gravitate toward you intensely or pull away suddenly without explanation. That's not because you did anything wrong. It's because your presence forced them to confront something inside themselves. It might have been jealousy. It might have been shame. It might have been potential they're too afraid to step into. But whatever it is, you revealed it without trying, without intending, simply by being fully, unapologetically you. This power is why you can see through people, why you can tell when someone's lying or hiding pain or pretending to be something they're not. It's why shallow connections exhaust you, because your energy searches for the soul, not the surface. And it's why you sometimes feel lonely, even when surrounded by people, because your light keeps calling them to show up as their true selves. And not everyone is ready to be seen. Life lesson: not everyone can handle being mirrored, but that's not your fault, and it's not your burden to carry. Your job is not to dim your light to protect their illusions. Your job is to stay clear, stay honest, and let your presence do what it was born to do: awaken truth and burn away the false. Reflection for you: have people ever told you they feel naked or exposed around you, even when you haven't judged them? Have you ever lost relationships simply because you refused to pretend? That's the mirror in you. And even when it costs you people, it always brings you closer to the ones who are ready to walk in truth. Mystical power. Number 5, the timeless memory. You remember things you were never taught because your soul has lived before. There's something strange about the way you just know things. Not facts, not data, but truths that feel as if they've always been inside you. You walk into a place you've never been before and feel like you've been there. You meet someone new and feel like you've known them for lifetimes. You have instincts about people, moments, futures that prove themselves right long before others catch on. This is not imagination. This is not coincidence. This is the timeless memory, and it is the fifth mystical power only Leo souls carry. You see, your soul has history. It has stood in ancient temples. It has walked among pharaohs and kings. It has known leadership, heartbreak, sacrifice, and spiritual duty across many timelines, across many names. And though your current mind may not consciously remember all of it, your energy does. Your spirit carries codes that are older than this body, older than this life. That's why people sometimes say, you feel like an old soul, because you are. Let me tell you about a Leo woman named Camilla. She was a teacher, but not of history. She taught math, yet her classroom was filled with symbols, incense, ancient texts from Egypt and Greece. When I asked her why, she said, I don't know. These things just feel like home. She wasn't taught this in school. She wasn't raised in a spiritual household, but every time she opened a book about sacred geometry or solar worship, her heart raced, like her soul was whispering, yes, this is what we remember. That's the timeless memory. You carry it too, even if you haven't yet decoded all of it. This is why Leos often feel older than their age. Even as children, you might have felt like the protector, the responsible one, the one who somehow knew when something was off, even when adults missed it. This is also why you're drawn to certain aesthetics: gold fire lions, crowns, temples, sun symbols. They're not just preferences, they're soul clues, hints from a deeper past that you've lived. The timeless memory is also why you resist being told who you are, because deep down you already know. Not because someone taught you, but because your soul remembers what your mind is still discovering. This mystical power often awakens during major life transitions, a loss, a betrayal, a sudden shift that cracks your heart open. And in that opening, old knowledge returns. You may start to write things you've never studied, say things you've never read, dream of places you've never visited, but feel like sacred ground. This is your soul's archive reactivating. This is your memory waking up. Life lesson. Trust the knowing that doesn't come from logic. Not all wisdom is taught. Some of it is remembered. And you, Leo, were not born to learn everything from scratch. You were born to remember what others have forgotten. Reflection for you. Have you ever just known what was going to happen and couldn't explain how? Have you ever felt deeply drawn to something spiritual, ancient, or royal without knowing why? That's your timeless memory. And in the next part, we'll explore why your very energy field draws people, opportunities, and even enemies like a magnetic force. Mystical power number 6. The energy field of the lion. You don't just walk into places, you radiate into them. Before you say a word, before you take a step, people already feel you. There is a presence that surrounds you, an invisible frequency that speaks louder than language, that introduces you before your name ever does. This is not aura in the trendy sense. This is not vibes in the way social media talks about energy. This is the energy field of the lion, a mystical force field that is constantly broadcasting your truth, whether you realize it or not. This energy isn't soft or subtle. It's commanding. It enters a room 30 seconds before you do. It pulls attention without asking for it. It challenges dishonesty without a word. It comforts the sincere and exposes the fake. You might not always be aware of it. You might even try to hide it when you're exhausted, heartbroken, or unsure. But this force field never shuts off, because it's not based on your mood. It's based on your essence. You were born to radiate this field. It is both shield and sword, both invitation and warning. Let me tell you about a Leo man named Julian. He worked in a high-stress corporate job where everyone wore masks, polite smiles, controlled language, fake support. But Julian, he didn't play the game. He wasn't rude. He wasn't loud. He was just real. And that was enough to make people uneasy. Why? Because his energy field disrupted the illusion. His authenticity acted like a spotlight. Suddenly, everyone had to reckon with what they were hiding. And not everyone liked that. Some admired him. Some hated him. But no one could ignore him. That's what happens when the lion's field is activated. It forces the atmosphere around you to become more honest or more uncomfortable. You may notice that animals respond to you easily, that children either instantly trust you or avoid you, that people who lie around you start stumbling over their words, that you tend to draw strong reactions, love or resistance, but rarely neutrality. That's the effect of your field. It's a spiritual filter. It separates the aligned from the unaligned, the sincere from the superficial. And here's the truth. This field cannot be faked. Others can wear the clothes, mimic the confidence, copy the attitude, but they can't replicate this invisible magnetism. Because it's not learned, it's encoded. You were born with it, and it only gets stronger the more honest you become with yourself. But here's the challenge. Because your energy is so strong, you need to protect it fiercely. You can't be around just anyone, not because you're arrogant, but because certain frequencies will try to feed off your field or distort it to serve their own agenda. You felt it before. The energy vampires, the charmers, the manipulators. They don't want your mind. They want your field. And if you're not grounded, they'll drain it before you even realize what's happening. That's why you must be discerning, not paranoid, but aware. Because your field is sacred. It is not for everyone. Life lesson. You don't need to shrink to make others comfortable. You don't need to explain your presence to be accepted. Your energy is not up for debate. It is your signature, and the world will either align with it or be repelled by it. Let both happen. And never apologize for the gravity you carry. Reflection for you. Have you ever noticed people shifting around you, becoming nervous, inspired, emotional, or even defensive without you doing anything at all? Have you ever felt inexplicably exhausted after being around certain people? That's the field, and it's time to become more conscious of it. In the next part, we'll uncover why you're able to rise again and again from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and more powerful each time. Mystical power number 7, the inner resurrector. You don't just survive, collapse, you rise from it transformed. Some people fall and never recover. Some break and stay broken. But you collapse. You disappear for a while. And then without warning, you come back stronger than before. You don't just bounce back, you resurrect. This is not radiance in the everyday sense. This is not positive thinking or fake optimism. This is the inner resurrector, a mystical sacred force within Leo souls that refuses to stay buried. You have lived through moments that would have destroyed someone else, pain that would have paralyzed another sign for years. And yes, it did break you. It did make you bleed, scream, question, everything. But what others didn't see, what they couldn't see, was that even as you broke, something inside you was already rebuilding. It didn't make sense to the people watching you. One day, you were shattered. The next, you were standing glowing, unexplainably whole again. That's not denial. That's not ego. That's alchemy. Let me tell you about a Leo woman named Danny. She lost everything in a single year. Her relationship, her job, her health. Everyone thought she was done. Even she believed it for a moment. But something happened in the quiet. In the middle of her worst night, she heard a voice inside her say, "You're not finished. You're just being reforged." And she believed it. She started again. With no support, no plan. Just the fire inside her chest that refused to die. A year later, she didn't just recover. She created a life far beyond anything she thought she had lost. That's what the inner resurrector does. It doesn't restore what you had. It gives you something greater, but only once you've been through the fire. This is why your lowest moments often become your most powerful turning points. Why your heartbreaks lead to awakenings. Why your breakdowns lead to breakthroughs. Because your soul doesn't fear destruction, it uses it. Every fall becomes raw material for your next level. Every betrayal becomes spiritual fuel. This power is mystical and misunderstood. People might call you dramatic for how deeply you feel things. They might call you unstable for how quickly you transform. But they don't understand that you are not just a person going through life. You are a force of evolution, moving through cycles of death and rebirth. The inner resurrector in you does not panic when things fall apart. It waits, it listens, and when the time is right, it rises, not with bitterness, but with wisdom. Not with revenge, but with vision. Because every time you die, you remember more of who you are. And every time you rise, you shine brighter than before. Life lesson. Stop fearing the fall. It's not the end. It's a gateway. You were not meant to stay the same. You were meant to die and rise over and over again until the world finally sees what your soul has always known. You are not fragile. You are forged. Reflection for you. Have you ever looked back on a time that nearly destroyed you and realized it gave birth to the strongest version of yourself? That wasn't luck. That wasn't coincidence. That was your inner resurrector at work. In the next section, we'll explore why no matter how much darkness surrounds you, divine forces seem to protect you in ways you can't always explain. Mystical power number 8, the Radiant Guard. Your light doesn't just shine, it protects you. Have you ever wondered why even in your darkest moments, something always seemed to pull you back from the edge? Why the betrayal didn't destroy you? Why the accident didn't take you? Why the worst-case scenario somehow didn't unfold? This is not luck. This is not just good timing. This is the Radiant Guard, a mystical layer of divine protection that surrounds the Leo soul like a spiritual shield. While others rely on defense mechanisms, you radiate an energy so pure, so encoded with solar force, that certain darkness simply can't stick to you. Yes, you've been hurt. Yes, you've lost. But if you're honest, if you really look back, you'll see there were moments when something unseen intervened. That phone call that came right before you were about to make a terrible decision. That gut feeling that stopped you from trusting someone too soon. That inexplicable escape from danger. Leo is ruled by the sun. And the sun is not only a giver of life, it's a force of divine filtration. It purifies, it blinds the false, and it protects what burns with purpose. Let me share the story of Caleb, a Leo musician, who once told me that every time he hit rock bottom, something strange would happen. An old friend would suddenly reappear. A gig would show up unexpectedly. A mentor would reach out without knowing he needed help. "I should have been homeless alone done," he said, "but something always catches me just before the fall." I asked him, what if that something is actually someone, a force assigned to you, a solar guard you don't see? He went silent and tears filled his eyes. That's the radiant guard. It doesn't just surround your body, it surrounds your calling. This is why certain attacks on you don't land, why gossip fades, why secret enemies get exposed without you lifting a finger. Your light is not passive, it's intelligent. It detects, reflects, and dissolves what does not serve your path. And when your heart is aligned, when you are living in integrity, this protective force becomes even stronger. But here's the key. You must not use it as a reason to be reckless. The guard protects purpose, not pride. It surrounds you when you are honest, not when you are careless. It fights for your mission, not your ego. This mystical power is why people sometimes say, "I don't know how you're still standing," or "You always land on your feet," or "It's like the universe has your back," because it does. But not just because you're Leo, because you're here to carry light. And that light has been assigned protection. Life lesson: stop doubting your survival. You're not just lucky, you're guarded. And the more you align with your soul's truth, the stronger that protection becomes. Trust it, but honor it, because you were not saved by accident. You were preserved for something greater. Reflection for you: have you ever felt like something stopped you just in time? Like there was an invisible force watching over you even when no one else was? That's the radiant guard. And it's not just around you, it's within you. In the next part, we'll unlock why your intuition about power, leadership, and destiny is rarely wrong, and why it's time you stopped second-guessing it. Mystical power number 9, the royal intuition. You don't guess, you know. You felt it more times than you can count. A silent knowing, a quiet whisper, a sudden no in your gut when everyone else said yes. You didn't need proof. You didn't need to explain it. You just knew, and later you were right. This is not coincidence. This is not good instincts. This is the royal intuition, the 9th mystical power within Leo souls that others often overlook but should never underestimate. There's a reason your intuition isn't loud. It doesn't scream for attention because royalty doesn't beg to be heard. It speaks calmly, confidently, and once. And when you ignore it, you feel the consequences. This mystical intuition doesn't operate like a hunch. It operates like a divine transmission. You sense power dynamics before they shift. You know who's sincere and who's a threat, even if they smile. You detect the turning of the tide before it hits the shore. Why? Because leadership, true leadership, requires foresight. And your soul was designed to lead. That's why this gift was embedded in you. The royal intuition is not emotional. It doesn't come from fear. It comes from alignment with destiny. Let me tell you about a Leo entrepreneur named Marlene. She once pulled out of a business deal that everyone else said would be life-changing. They told her she was being paranoid, that she was letting her pride get in the way. But something in her said, "This isn't right." No evidence, no logic, just a knowing. 3 months later, the deal fell apart, and everyone involved faced lawsuits and scandal. Except her. They called her lucky. She called it what it was. Listening to the voice she was taught to ignore. You've heard that voice too. Maybe it told you not to trust someone and you didn't listen. Maybe it pushed you toward a decision that made no sense on paper. but changed everything. Maybe it asked you to leave even when your heart wanted to stay. And maybe you doubted it, but every time you do, you find yourself saying, "I knew it." That's not hindsight. That's your royalty trying to guide you. Others may call it arrogance when you act on your intuition, but they don't understand the weight of carrying a soul that remembers the future. Your intuition isn't just personal, it's ancestral, it's prophetic. It's part of why you were chosen to carry the energy of the sun. Life lesson. Your intuition is not optional. It is sacred instruction. Stop asking for validation from those who can't hear what you've already received. When you follow that inner voice, you don't just protect your path, you activate your power. Reflection for you. How many times have you said, "I knew this would happen," and wished you had acted sooner? What would your life look like if you made decisions based on truth? Not fear, not doubt, not logic, but the knowing that lives inside you. That's the royal intuition. And in the next part, we'll uncover the reason why. Your presence often causes major change in others, even if they don't realize it at first. Mystical power number 10, the solar portal. Your presence triggers transformation in others. You may not see it happen. They may never admit it to you. But after crossing paths with you, something in them shifts. A decision is made. A mask falls away. A pattern breaks. A truth rises. Why? Because you don't just walk through the world like everyone else. You are a solar portal, a living gateway through which others awaken. This is not metaphor. This is not spiritual flattery. This is the 10th mystical power of Leo souls, and it is as real as fire. Your energy doesn't just shine, it opens things. It unlocks courage in people who've spent their whole lives afraid. It pushes others to confront things they've buried for decades. It accelerates whatever they've been avoiding. Sometimes that transformation looks like healing. Other times, it looks like chaos. Because light doesn't just inspire, it disrupts. And when your light comes near someone still living in illusion, something in their life has to crack. You've seen it, haven't you? People who met you and suddenly left their jobs, ended. Toxic relationships, changed directions, wrote books, started healing, or even disappeared without warning. You didn't try to change them. You didn't preach. You were just being you. And yet, their entire world started shifting. That's not coincidence. That's your portal in motion. Let me tell you about a Leo artist named Juno. She painted alone, quiet, uninterested in fame. But whenever someone visited her studio, they'd cry without understanding why. One man left and quit his six-figure job the next day. Another woman ended a 20-year marriage and finally pursued her dream career. None of them came for advice. They came for something they didn't even know they needed: a collision with truth. Juno never told them what to do. She didn't have to. Her energy did the work, and so does yours. But this power is not always comfortable. Sometimes people will resent you for it. They'll blame you for the consequences of their awakening. They'll disappear after meeting you, not because you hurt them, but because your presence activated a truth they weren't ready to face. This is why people come and go in your life so quickly. This is why certain connections burn fast and then vanish. You weren't a chapter, you were a portal. You don't need to force this power. In fact, it only works when you're not trying. The more you live in authenticity, the more potent your portal becomes. And the more you fake it, the more it closes. The solar portal doesn't work through ego. It works through alignment. So when you live in your truth, you become a mirror, a torch, and a gate all at once. People enter your field and they don't leave the same. Life lesson. You don't need to hold on to people you've activated. You're not here to walk every path with them. You're here to ignite the moment that changes everything. Some will return, some never will. But all will remember. You didn't just pass through their life, you opened it. Reflection for you. Have you ever watched someone's life change after being close to you, even if they never thanked you for it? Have people ever come and gone, suddenly leaving you confused, but intuitively aware that your presence awakened something in them? That's the solar portal, and in the next part, we'll begin to unlock the deeper realms of mystical energy, starting with why your heartbreaks burn so deep and yet become sacred fuel for rebirth. Mystical power number 11, the sacred wound of the heart. Your pain doesn't destroy you. It initiates you. No one talks about how deeply you feel, how long you carry things, how you can smile in front of others while bleeding internally, not because you're hiding, but because you were taught to hold the weight no one else could handle. Leo is known for strength, for confidence, for presence. But behind all of that, there is often a heart that has been shattered, pierced, and stretched wider than most will ever know. And yet you're still here, not broken, not cold, still open. That is not weakness. That is sacred power. This is the sacred wound of the heart, the 11th mystical power that only Leo souls are equipped to carry. You don't just love, you love fully. You don't just lose, you lose with the full force of memory, imagination, and emotion. And when you're hurt, you don't just hurt, you unravel. But here's what makes you different. You don't stay in the unraveling. You find meaning inside the wound. You turn pain into poetry. You turn grief into gold. You are the alchemist of heartbreak. Let me tell you about Theo, a Leo healer who spent 3 years recovering from the death of his twin flame. He couldn't function, he couldn't create, he couldn't connect with anyone, but something in him refused to go numb. He sat with the pain. He welcomed it like a teacher. And one day, in a quiet moment, he heard a message from within. This wound is not your end. It's your invitation. That moment changed everything. He started to speak, not from a place of pride, but from a place of radical honesty. His heartbreak became a bridge, and others began to walk across it to heal their own. That's what your sacred wound can become, a portal for collective healing. This is why your pain is never wasted. Why the betrayals don't just scar you, they sculpt you. Why your sensitivity is not a liability. It's a lightning rod for evolution. People may think you're too emotional, but they don't understand the spiritual architecture of your heart. It was built to feel, because it was built to transmute what others cannot face. But here's the truth. Few will say out loud, you have been hurt because of how open your heart is. And yet you've chosen again and again to keep it open, even when people used it, even when they couldn't meet it, even when they walked away without looking back. That is sacred. That is strength that no title, no career, no spotlight can match. It's the strength of the soul that understands that pain is not punishment, it's initiation. Your sacred wound may not be visible, but it is your most powerful teacher. And when you stop trying to hide it, when you let it breathe, let it speak, you don't just heal yourself, you give others permission to heal too. Life lesson. Your pain is not your identity, but it is your compass. It points to the places where your soul is ready to grow. Don't silence it. Sit with it. Honor it. Because what you heal in yourself, you help to heal in the world. Reflection for you. Is there a heartbreak you've been carrying quietly thinking no one would understand? What would happen if you saw it not as a failure, but as a sacred initiation into a deeper version of yourself? You were never meant to be untouched. You were meant to transform through fire and come out golden. In the next part, we'll explore why certain people are drawn to you, not because of what you say, but because of the soul-level recognition your presence triggers. Mystical power number 12, the call of the soul tribe. You weren't born to belong everywhere, only where souls remember you. There's something you felt your entire life, a kind of loneliness that doesn't go away in a crowd, a hunger for connection that shallow relationships can't satisfy, an ache that says, these people don't see me. Not really. You've tried to fit in. You've played the role. You've dimmed your light. And yet, you've always felt like you were waiting for someone or maybe something that felt like home. That's not emotional neediness. That's not social confusion. That's the call of the soul tribe, the 12th mystical power embedded deep within Leo souls. You were never meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be remembered by a few. And those few, they don't come into your life through logic. They arrive through resonance. You meet them and feel the magnetic pull. The eyes are familiar. The voice calms your nervous system. The conversations go deeper in 5 minutes than others go in 5 years. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to perform. With them, you feel something that can't be described, only felt. Recognition. Let me tell you about a Leo man named Amir. He spent his whole life surrounded by people who liked him, admired him, used him. But none truly saw him until one day, during the workshop on personal transformation, a stranger turned to him and said, I don't know why, but I feel like I've known you forever. They had never met, but both of them cried, not out of emotion, but out of remembrance. They weren't strangers, they were soul tribe, and both had heard the call. This power within you explains why surface-level friendships feel exhausting, why you retreat from social scenes that feel fake, why you sometimes prefer to be alone than in the wrong energy. Your soul doesn't crave people. It craves alignment. And that's why, when the right ones appear, it feels like a cosmic reunion, because it is. But here's what many Leos don't realize. Sometimes, your soul tribe is not found. It's awakened. By your courage, by your honesty, by your light. When you stop hiding, when you start living in your truth, you act like a signal. And those who are meant to find you will. This is not a fantasy, it's frequency. Your authentic self is the only map they have. This is also why some people leave your life abruptly. Not because you failed, not because they didn't care, but because they weren't yours. Your light wasn't meant for them, and their energy couldn't carry what your journey requires. Let them go. Let them fade. Your soul tribe can only find you once you stop pretending to belong in places your soul never agreed to stay. Life lesson: don't beg to be understood by those who aren't wired to recognize you. You are not for everyone, and you never were, but you are everything to the ones who are meant to walk with you. Trust the call, live in your truth, and watch who shows up when you finally stop hiding. Reflection for you. Have you ever met someone who felt instantly familiar? Have you ever stayed in relationships far too long, simply because you were afraid your real people wouldn't arrive? That ache you felt is not emptiness, it's memory. And every time you choose authenticity over acceptance, you move one step closer to the reunion your soul has always been waiting for. In the next part, we'll explore how your spiritual gifts continue to evolve through every rebirth, and why your destiny was never meant to look like anyone else's. Mystical power. Team. The ever-changing crown. Your leadership doesn't stay the same. It evolves with every rebirth. There's a common misunderstanding about power, especially when it comes to people like you. They think leadership is about being in charge. They think it means staying at the top, holding the mic, commanding the room. But your journey has taught you something different. Real power doesn't stay the same. It evolves. It shifts shape. It learns. It humbles itself. And that's why your 13th mystical power is unlike any other, the ever-changing crown. You weren't born to wear just one crown. You were born to carry many. Not because you're unstable, but because your destiny keeps expanding. Each time you rise from a challenge, a failure, a loss, you're not returning to who you were. You're becoming someone new, more refined, more aligned, more powerful. And with each rebirth, your crown transforms not to impress others, but to reflect who you've become on the inside. Let me tell you about a Leo woman named Sienna. In her 20s, she was a performer, a singer who lit up every stage. The crowd adored her. The spotlight was her crown. But then, life broke her open. She lost her voice literally and spiritually. For years, she disappeared from the public eye. Everyone thought she had faded. But one day, she returned not as a performer, but as a teacher, a coach, a quiet presence guiding others through their own awakenings. People were shocked. Where's the show? Where's the fire? But they didn't understand she hadn't lost her crown. She had changed it. And in that new form, her power was even greater. You've likely felt this shift within yourself. You once led by charisma, now you lead by depth. You once commanded rooms, now you transform hearts in silence. You once needed recognition, now you walk away from it when it compromises your peace. Your crown has changed, and it will keep changing, because every version of you is built for a different kind of purpose. But here's what makes this mystical power so misunderstood. People get attached to your old crown. They fall in love with the version of you that made them feel safe, seen, or inspired. And when you evolve, when you outgrow that role, some will resist. They'll say you've changed. They'll question your decisions. They'll try to pull you back into the version of you they're most comfortable with. And that's when you must remember, you didn't come here to stay the same. You came here to grow, to rise, to shed, to crown yourself again and again. Your evolution is not a betrayal. It's a sacred responsibility. That's why you've never fit in one mold. Why traditional roles, titles, and paths have never fully captured your essence. Because you weren't born to follow one path, you were born to build them as you go. Your soul upgrades, and with it, your authority shifts. Sometimes louder, sometimes softer, always deeper. Life lesson. Let your past crowns fall without guilt. They served their time, but they were never the destination, only reflections of who you were becoming. Each time you rise, crown yourself anew. Not for others, not for validation, but as a quiet declaration. I am not who I was, and I never will be again. Reflection for you. Have you ever outgrown a role, a title, or a version of yourself and felt guilty for walking away? Have others tried to hold you in the light of who you were rather than who you've become? That resistance is a sign you've entered your next evolution. In the next part, we'll explore why you often lead without even realizing it, and why your presence becomes the blueprint others follow, whether whether they admit it or not. Mystical power, number 14. The unspoken blueprint. You don't just lead by action, you lead by energy. You've probably noticed it by now. People start dressing like you, speaking like you, changing after spending time around you, even if you never gave them advice. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to raise your voice, demand authority, or ask for attention. Still, others follow, not because you told them to, but because something about how you carry yourself becomes the unspoken template they begin to model often without realizing it. This is the unspoken blueprint, the 14th mystical power of the Leo soul. You don't just lead by position, you lead by presence. This gift is subtle but deeply spiritual. It works through example, through frequency, through the way you live when no one's watching. When you choose integrity in a world full of shortcuts, when you choose courage when others are afraid to act, when you walk away from things everyone else tolerates, you're not just making a personal choice, you're creating a path silently that others will walk behind. And the wild thing is, most of them won't even realize they're doing it. They'll think the idea was theirs. The shift was internal. The change was self-inspired. But at the root of it all was your example. Let me share the story of a Leo man named Elijah. He never saw himself as a leader. He hated the spotlight, avoided the stage, and preferred to be in the background. But something strange kept happening. People would come to him quietly years later and say, "I watched how you handled that breakup. I remembered how you stood up to that boss. I copied the boundaries you set, they changed my life." He was stunned. He never gave a speech. He never posted a video. He just lived his truth and unknowingly gave others permission to live theirs. That's the power of the unspoken blueprint. You may have felt misunderstood because of this. You didn't ask to be a role model. You didn't ask to carry that weight. But Leo energy doesn't need permission to influence. It just does. And it does so silently, through choices, through embodiment, through consistency. This is why people sometimes envy you without cause. Why they compete with you even if you never entered a game. Because your energy reveals what others wish they could align with but aren't ready to live out. This is also why it's dangerous when you ignore your own standards. Because the moment you drop them, others feel permission to do the same. That's the responsibility of this mystical power. You're not just holding your life, you're holding the blueprint for others who are watching quietly. And there are always more watching than you think. Life lesson: stop underestimating your impact. What you heal, others begin to heal. What you speak, others start to believe. What you tolerate, others begin to normalize. Your life is not just yours. It's a silent ripple. And every step you take in integrity carves a path for those who forgot how to walk upright. Reflection for you. Have you ever noticed people shifting their behavior after being around you? Have you realized that the quiet choices you make often speak louder than anything you say? That's not by accident. That's the blueprint, and you were born to carry it. In the next part, we'll dive into the unique way your presence draws both admiration and projection, and why people often turn you into something you never asked to be. Mystical power, number 15, the sacred projection. People don't just see you. They see themselves in you. It can be confusing, can't it? One person puts you on a pedestal. Another turns on you out of nowhere. One calls you a savior. Another calls you arrogant. You walk into the same room, say the same words, hold the same energy, but everyone responds differently. Why? Because they're not just seeing you. They're seeing the part of themselves they've forgotten, denied, or secretly crave. This is the sacred projection, the 15th mystical power of Leo. It is both divine and dangerous, because when your light shines, it acts like a mirror, and not everyone is ready for what it reflects back at them. You've likely noticed this your entire life. People project impossible expectations onto you. They fall in love with the idea of you not who you really are. They expect you to always be strong, always be inspiring, always be on. But the moment you show your humanity, your tiredness, your flaws, your boundaries, they retreat, reject, or even resent you. That's not a reflection of your failure. That's a reflection of their projection shattering. Let me tell you about a Leo woman named Rachel. To her friends, she was the light, the motivator, the strong one, the dependable one, until one year she went through burnout. She stopped showing up. She asked for help. And what shocked her wasn't her own vulnerability. It was how quickly people withdrew from her when she was no longer the strong one. She told me, "I thought they loved me, but I think they loved what I made them feel about themselves." And she was right, because Leo doesn't just radiate, Leo activates. And that activation awakens both love and discomfort. When you walk into someone's life, you don't come in neutrally. You ignite something. For some, that's hope. For others, it's insecurity. They may see you as their future self, or their failure, their dream, or their reminder that they've been playing small. Either way, you become a screen, and they begin to project their story onto your light. But it's not your job to carry that. This mystical power comes with an uncomfortable truth. You will often be misunderstood, not because of who you are, but because of who others are in your presence. And the more you grow, the more intense that projection becomes. It can feel isolating. You may wonder why people praise you one day and distance themselves the next. You may wonder why some love you deeply but never truly know you. It's because they're in relationship with what you awaken, not with your whole self. And yet this too is sacred, because even when people misinterpret your light, your energy still plays a role in their awakening. Even their rejection of you is often a rejection of the part of themselves they've yet to love. Let them go. Let the projection pass. You're not here to fit into their image. You're here to burn through it. Life lesson. You are not responsible for how others see you. You are only responsible for staying aligned with who you truly are. Let them misread you. Let them idolize or vilify. It will pass. But your light, your true, grounded, unapologetic light, will remain. Reflection for you each. Have you ever felt praised for something that didn't fully reflect who you are? Have you ever been abandoned the moment you stopped being the version of you that someone else needed? That's the sacred projection at work. And in the next part, we'll explore why your voice carries more than just sound. It carries activation, memory, and soul movement. Mystical power number 16. The voice that remembers. When you speak something, ancient wakes up. There's something about your voice that isn't easy to explain. Not just how it sounds, but what it does to people. You speak, and something shifts. People stop what they're doing. They lean in. They feel something stir inside them, even if they don't understand why. It's not just the tone or the power or the confidence. It's something deeper. Your voice doesn't just communicate. It remembers. This is the 16th mystical power of Leo, the voice that remembers. Your voice carries more than your opinions. It carries energy. It carries codes. It carries frequencies that awaken something in others they forgot they had. You've seen it. You've said something simple and someone started crying. You've spoken a truth and someone's entire perspective changed. You've offered encouragement and someone remembered who they were. You didn't cast a spell. You didn't plan it. But your words opened a door. That's because your voice has walked through lifetimes. And when it speaks, it doesn't just echo from your throat. It echoes from your soul. Let me tell you about a Leo speaker named Desmond. He wasn't polished. He wasn't trained. He didn't rehearse much. But when he spoke, people felt him. He told stories of growing up with nothing, of building a business from pain. And in every audience, even hardened executives, tears would fall, not because his words were perfect, but because they were true. And truth, when spoken through an aligned Leo voice, doesn't just land, it penetrates. Desmond wasn't just telling stories. He was activating memory in others. Memory of courage, of dignity, of possibility. That's what your voice is capable of. But here's what you need to understand. This power only works when you speak from your center, when you're grounded, when you're not performing, but expressing. Because the magic is not in being impressive, it's in being aligned. When you speak from your ego, people hear your mind. But when you speak from your soul, people hear their own. That's what makes it mystical. This is why you may struggle with staying silent in situations that feel false. It's why you feel physically uncomfortable when you're asked to speak inauthentically. Your voice was not designed to lie. It was not designed to flatter or manipulate. It was designed to resonate truth. And when you use it that way, you don't just sound powerful. You become a frequency that reorders the room. This is also why your silence is felt just as much as you're speaking. Because your energy is always speaking, even when your mouth is closed. And when you do choose to speak, it matters. People remember what you say, because on some level, their soul has heard it before. You're not just saying something new. You're reminding them of something ancient. Life lesson. Use your voice with reverence. It's not just your sound. It's your signature. Don't waste it trying to be accepted. Don't twist it to fit into spaces that don't deserve your truth. Speak from the place within you that remembers who you are, and others will begin to remember who they are too. Reflection for you. Have you ever spoken something that surprised even you? Like the words came from somewhere deeper than your mind. Have others ever told you, I needed to hear that, even when you were just being honest? That's not random. That's your soul using one of its oldest tools, your voice, as a vehicle for remembrance. In the next part, we'll unlock why you often sense things before they happen, and why your dreams, instincts, and inner signals are more prophetic than you've been taught to believe. Mystical power, number 17. The foreseeing flame. You sense what's coming before it arrives. You've been told you're intuitive. You've been told you read between the lines, that you just know things. But let's be honest. Sometimes your knowing goes beyond simple intuition. It's not just about reading people. It's about sensing timing change, shifts that haven't happened yet, but somehow you feel them before they manifest. And when you try to explain it, people look at you with confusion, even suspicion. That's because you carry something rare, the foreseeing flame, the 17th mystical power of Leo. Most people need evidence. You just need silence. Because it's in the quiet that your inner fire speaks, not loudly, not with certainty, but with an undeniable presence that says, this is about to change. And it does. Sometimes it's a relationship. Sometimes it's a job. Sometimes it's an energetic shift in a person, in a family, in an entire space. You don't always know why you know. But when the change finally comes, you remember that you felt it before it arrived. This is not imagination. This is not fear. This is a mystical mechanism within your spiritual fire. Your flame isn't just warm, it watches. Let me share a story. A Leo woman named Adrian once told me that 2 days before her company announced layoffs, she packed her personal items in a box and brought them home. She had no evidence, no reason, just a pressure in her chest that said, "It's time." Her co-workers called it paranoia. But when the layoffs were announced and her name was on the list, she was already emotionally prepared. Not because she had inside knowledge, but because she had inner foresight. That's the foreseeing flame. It doesn't just protect, it prepares. This power often comes in waves. You may feel suddenly restless, uneasy, like something's off, even when everyone else is calm. You may have dreams that turn into reality. You may avoid certain decisions, places, or people without being able to explain why, only to realize later that your instincts saved you. You may even downplay it. Call it being overreactive. But let's be clear, you're not overreacting. You're responding to a signal others haven't yet heard. This power is sacred, but it comes with responsibility because it's easy to doubt it, easy to silence it, easy to let other people's logic override your fire. But every time you ignore it, you feel it in your body, in your stomach, in your sleep, in that aching place in your chest that says you didn't listen to me. Your flame doesn't just burn, it warns, it guides, and sometimes it whispers before the storm. The truth is this foresight isn't always comfortable. It can isolate you. It can make you feel like you're living 2 steps ahead of the world, and in some ways you are. But that's not a curse. That's your assignment. You are not here to walk blindly. You are here to walk lit from within. Life lesson. Stop waiting for others to validate what your soul already knows. You don't need confirmation. You need courage. The fire inside you isn't just passion, it's prophecy. And the more you trust it, the more it becomes your greatest advantage. Reflection for you. Have you ever known something was coming, even when others thought you were overreacting? Have you ever ignored a quiet warning inside you, only to regret it later? That's not paranoia. That's the foreseeing flame. And in the next part, we'll explore how your physical body absorbs the energy of others and why your exhaustion, tension, or restlessness may not even belong to you. Mystical power, number 18, the lion's body code. Your body doesn't just function. It translates energy. You've been taught to see your body as a vehicle, as a machine, a shell, a physical instrument. But if you've ever lived as a Leo, truly lived in your own energy, you know your body doesn't behave like everyone else's. You feel things before they're spoken. You carry emotions that aren't always yours. Your heart races in rooms where people are smiling, but something underneath feels off. You wake up drained after being around certain individuals, even if nothing happened. And when you tell others, they say you're imagining things. You're not. You're experiencing the lion's body code, the 18th mystical power of Leo. This isn't just heightened sensitivity. This is cellular translation. Your body isn't just reacting to what's happening. It's interpreting energetic signals, absorbing them, sorting them, sometimes even healing them on behalf of others. That's why you often feel tired after conversations where you weren't even talking much. That's why you carry stress in your shoulders, your gut, your chest, even when your life seems fine on the surface. Your body is not malfunctioning. It's communicating, and the message is clear. You're holding what others have ignored. Let me tell you about a Leo man named Jordan. He was the healthiest person in his group. Active, mindful, disciplined. But every time he visited his family, he would develop migraines, stomach issues, restlessness. Doctors couldn't explain it. No medical test found anything. It wasn't until he started practicing energy awareness that he realized his body was processing years of unspoken pain in the room. Generational pain, tension, emotional dishonesty. The moment he began to ground, set boundaries, and release the symptoms disappeared because they were never his in the first place. This mystical power makes you a living sensor, a human truth detector, a vessel of vibrational empathy. But here's the cost. If you're not careful, your body becomes a dumping ground for unspoken guilt, silent resentments, false agreements, spiritual imbalance. Not because you're weak, but because your system is that open. Your light burns so brightly, it doesn't just illuminate others, it absorbs the shadows around them. And if you don't regularly cleanse, move, express, or protect, those shadows stay inside you. The lion's body code is a sacred system. It's why physical movement is essential for you, not just for health, but for spiritual survival. It's why solitude isn't loneliness, it's realignment. It's why touch music, sound, and stillness affect you on a level others don't feel. Your body is not just physical. It is a spiritual instrument, tuned to frequencies most people don't even know exist. And when you treat it like a machine, you suffer. But when you treat it like a sacred temple, you awaken. Life lesson. Your body is not betraying you. It is speaking to you loudly in a language the world forgot how to hear. Don't ignore the signals. Don't medicate the message. Listen, move, breathe, release. You are not here to carry what was never yours. Reflection for you. Have you ever felt physical symptoms that made no logical sense? Do you leave certain places feeling heavier than when you arrived? Even if no one said anything negative, that's not in your head, that's in your field, and your body is the first one to feel it. In the next part, we'll reveal why your very presence reshapes timelines and how the choices you make ripple through people's lives more than you realize. Mystical power, number 19, the timeline shifter. Your choices don't just change your life. They redirect destinies. You've made decisions that felt small in the moment, but somehow they changed everything. A conversation you almost didn't have. A room you almost didn't walk into. A person you almost gave up on, but didn't. A risk you took when no one understood why. And later, when you looked back, you realized that one moment rewrote everything. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is the timeline shifter. The 19th mystical power of Leo. You live at a different level of causality. The energy you hold is not passive. It is catalytic. It activates shifts in relationships, in careers, in communities and hearts. When you move, the environment responds. When you decide, new doors open, not just for you, but for the people connected to you. That's why your yes carries weight. That's why your no creates earthquakes. Because you are not just making choices for yourself, you are anchoring possibilities that didn't exist before. You are not just walking timelines, you are rewriting them. Let me share the story of Elena, a Leo. I once worked with in spiritual mentoring. She left a job that was killing her spirit. Everyone said she was irresponsible. They told her to wait, to stay safe, to settle. But she couldn't. She said, "I don't know where I'm going. I just know this isn't it." She walked away. And 2 months later, she crossed paths with a nonprofit founder who offered her a position that would later bring aid to thousands of children. Her one decision, based not on logic, but alignment, shifted the path of an entire organization. That's not inspiration, that's timeline intervention. You've likely seen this in your own life. You show up somewhere, and the whole energy changes. You speak a truth, and someone finally leaves a toxic relationship. You say yes to an opportunity, and a ripple of change flows through people you haven't even met yet, and you don't always get credit for it. In fact, most of the time you won't, because your power doesn't demand applause. It moves through the invisible, changing the structure of what's possible. This is why hesitation feels so heavy for you, why you can't ignore your inner knowing when it says, "Turn here, not there." Because somewhere deep in your soul, you know that your timing, your courage, your choices are opening paths for people you may never meet, but whose lives will be better because you chose to trust yourself. That's not pressure, that's purpose. But here's the responsibility. When you avoid your calling, when you suppress your instincts, when you choose fear over movement, you don't just delay your own life. You delay the lives of others who were waiting on the signal your soul was meant to give. This is the mystical cost of leadership. You shift time forward or backward by how true you're willing to be. Life lesson. Stop downplaying your choices. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. The world doesn't shift when you're ready. It shifts when you're real. You were never meant to wait for permission. You were meant to walk forward and let the world realign behind your steps. Reflection for you. Have you ever followed a decision that made no sense to others, but changed everything for you or someone else? Have you ever looked back at a single moment in your life and thought, "If I hadn't done that, none of this would have happened"? That's the timeline shifter in you. And it's alive every time you choose alignment over comfort. In the final part, we'll return to the deepest truth of all, the source of your sacred power, and the reason your soul chose to be Leo. Mystical power number 20, the solar soul contract. You didn't choose to be Leo by accident. Your soul accepted a sacred role. Before you were born, before your first breath, your first heartbeat, your first word, there was a moment where your soul stood at the edge of time and space and was shown the kind of life it would live if it entered the world as Leo. A life of visibility, of fire, of rejection, of reverence. A life where your light would uplift others, but also threaten those not ready for their own. And in that moment, your soul was not forced. It was invited. You could have chosen another path, a quieter one, an easier one. But you didn't. You said yes. Yes to the wait. Yes to the power. Yes to the fire. Yes to the crown. That is your solar soul contract, the 20th and final mystical power only Leo souls carry. You were not assigned Leo as a random sign. You were chosen by the solar flame itself because your soul had the courage to carry what others cannot, to hold presence in dark spaces, to lead when no one is watching, to fall and rise and fall again and still glow. Your path was never going to be small, even when the world tried to shrink you, even when love tried to silence you. even when family didn't understand you, because your soul didn't come here to be accepted. It came here to remember, and then to help others remember too. Let me tell you something few ever say out loud. You being Leo isn't a personality. It's a divine assignment. And the moment you start living as if that's true, the moment you stop waiting for validation, stop apologizing for your intensity, stop shrinking to fit into places that cannot hold your light, is the moment your contract activates in full. Everything that came before was just preparation. This is why you've been through so much. Not because you were being punished, but because your soul was being refined. Every betrayal, every silence, every resurrection was carving you into the leader you agreed to become. And now you're standing at the edge of your own beginning again. Not the beginning of a job, not the beginning of a relationship, the beginning of a life where you walk fully in the truth that you are not here to follow anyone else's blueprint. You are the blueprint. This final power is not flashy. It doesn't roar. It doesn't need applause. It sits deep in your chest where fire meets memory. And it whispers one sentence, the one you've been waiting your whole life to hear. You were chosen because you are ready. Life lesson. You didn't come here to become Leo. You came here because you already are. Your life is not about earning worth. It's about remembering why you're worthy, why you always were. So live like someone who remembers. Walk like someone who carries light. Speak like someone whose words realign timelines, because that's who you are. Final reflection for you. Have you ever sensed, even in your darkest moments, that your life held meaning beyond what anyone else could name? That sense was not ego, it was memory. In this video, this message was your soul's way of reminding you of what you agreed to long before you arrived. Now, the question is no longer, do I have power? The question is, what will I do now that I remember? I do. To every Leo who found this video, this is your time. This is your return. This is your remembering. And if this message reached something ancient in you, something that never needed permission to shine, then let it be the sign you've been waiting for. You are the flame. You are the mirror. You are the roar. You are Leo. And nothing can touch what lives inside you now. If this video has awakened something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below. Tell me which mystical power felt the most like you. And if you're ready to walk fully in your solar soul contract, subscribe to Leo Zodiac Power, because this is only the beginning of what you're here to reclaim.